Will you hand me my screen box? Now go freak! Rah!
This is a preliminary hearing for Mr. Moreland, who is charged with burglary. Mr. Moreland is accused of entering his father-in-law's house and stealing multiple items. Earlier that day, Mr. Moreland's father-in-law passed away unexpectedly. The defense is arguing that there is not any probable cause to show that Mr. Moreland committed this crime. After hearing the facts of this case, do you think there is probable cause, or would you dismiss this case?
We are on the record in the 13th Judicial District, the District Court of Greenwood County, Kansas. Case number 2023 CR 189, State of Kansas versus Bradley William Moreland. Please announce appearances.
May it please the court, this state appears by Jill Gillette, County Attorney.
Good morning, Your Honor. Defendant Bradley Moreland appears with counsel Kelly Reynolds, both via Zoom.
And this matter does come on for preliminary hearing. Mr. Reynolds, your client still wishes evidentiary hearing on count 1 burglary.
Absolutely.
And Ms. Gillette, the state is ready to proceed.
We are, Your Honor.
Are there any opening statements? Hearing none. Ms. Gillette, would you like to call your first witness?
Judge, we will start with MrzFieldzYT.
All right. Is there
Kansas City.
a motion to sequester witnesses at this time?
Yeah, the defense would request that all witnesses be sequestered.
Missy, could you put the ones in waiting rooms that aren't ready to testify yet? And if you could tell her who those are, Ms. Gillette.
So the screen marked Megan, Daryl May, Moto Z3, and Deputy J. Andrews.
Mr. Moreland is the defendant. Ms. Sight is the first witness. Ms. Sight, please raise your right hand. You solemnly swear the testimony you're about to give shall be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth. So help you God.
I do.
Very well. Please proceed, Ms. Gillette.
Sandra, how do you know the defendant Bradley Moreland?
I know him through, he is a boyfriend of Samantha News. Samantha News is the daughter of the guy that just passed away, her father.
And what was his name?
His name was Scott David News.
All right. Did you and Scott live together?
Yes, we were under common law marriage.
Right. What was the address?
The address that we lived at together was here in Madison.
What date was Scott found deceased?
On the 13th of July of 2023.
Now, did you go out of town during that time period or shortly thereafter?
It was right before I had gone to Wisconsin to see my grandkids.
And did you receive a call or an investigation as to him passing away?
Yes, I did.
And who called and got in contact with you?
Daryl May.
Okay. And is that a close family friend?
To me and Scott, it was, yes.
Now, when Daryl got in touch with you, on the circumstances of the death, what had happened?
When they called me,
Yeah.
he informed me that he didn't report to work. They had called and did a well check and pretty much told me that they had found him, he had already passed.
Now, had you been able to come home to check your home yet?
No, ma'am.
And was the house secured after everyone left, to your knowledge?
Yes.
When Did you get notification that someone was at your house?
I did.
When was that?
That particularly afternoon while I was on the road trying to come back from Wisconsin.
So was it then the same date he passed away?
Correct.
Now, did you give permission for anyone else to be in the house?
No, ma'am.
Did you give permission for Bradley Moreland to be in the house?
Absolutely not.
Were you on the lease or the title to the property?
I am on the deed, yes.
Did you give anyone permission to go in and remove any property from your house?
No, ma'am.
Okay. Specifically, the vehicle that Mr. Moreland was driving was stopped, and there were some items that were found in the vehicle. Do you recall what those items were?
I only saw a picture that Deputy Andrews had shared. The only pictures that I saw was like very personal items, like his pajamas, his clothes, things of that nature.
Okay. Did you give permission for anyone to remove those from your home?
No, ma'am.
I didn't get that. Could you try again?
Sorry.
Theory. Okay. Now, were there other people to your knowledge that had entered your home?
Yes, ma'am.
Did you give permission for any of those other individuals to enter the home with Mr. Moreland?
No, ma'am.
Okay. Let's talk specifically about Samantha News. Who is she in relation to your spouse?
She was Scott News's daughter.
And how had she been related to Mr. Moreland?
They are boyfriend and girlfriend. They live together.
And did you receive text messages from Ms. News?
I did.
And did she admit they had gone in the house?
Objection. That asks for a hearsay response, and we have no opportunity to confront that witness, Judge.
Sustained.
Judge, if they are text messages and in writing and received by this individual, and she turned screenshots of those text messages over to law enforcement, it becomes specific evidence that's in writing that she admitted she had gone into the home, that she'd gone in through a window and opened a door. So it becomes admissions against interest of the co-defendant. They are in writing and not just verbal, and therefore they are able to be obtained and are part of the record of this investigation.
And Judge, that does not change their status as hearsay. The admission of another person does not make it any more admissible as to my client and defendant, Brad Moreland.
Sustained.
Okay. Now, as you, did you confront anyone about being in your home?
Confront them face to face.
No, through text messages, did you confront them about being in your home?
I did confront Samantha about why are you in my home.
Okay. And did you discover how they got into your home?
She had mentioned through the text messaging that
Objection,
she had.
Judge. This is going to be a hearsay response.
Sustained as to hearsay. I'm not going to let in what the co-defendant said unless she's available for testimony.
Now, did you have a friend go by the house? Or did Mr. May drive by the house?
I believe Mr. May had, I had called him once I found out somebody was in the house and asked him, what do I do? And in return, he said he would get a hold of the mayor of Madison, and then they would, call the sheriff's department to find out what is going on.
Okay. And did Mr. May go by and see the individuals at the house then?
I am not sure if he actually went by and saw them personally. I'm pretty sure.
Okay. Did you have another friend by the name of Megan?
Yes, I do.
And what's Megan's last name?
Dickinson.
Do you know how that's spelled?
I'm going to assume here Dickinson.
And Judge, she is subpoenaed and is present, so is Mr. May. And did you have Ms. Dickinson go by and see who was there?
Yes, I actually had her go by. I had told her what had happened and asked her if she could go by since they had a well check and make sure that everything looked secure because I was on my way back from Wisconsin. And she said, okay.
And were individuals actually in the house when she went there?
Objection, Your Honor. If this witness is available, they can testify to this.
She's available, so it's not hearsay, and she can say whether or not that she found out people were in her home.
Overruled as to the hearsay.
Did you find out these individuals were in your home without your permission?
Yes, ma'am.
And now law enforcement had also been in your home to investigate the death. Were items moved around in the house?
I can't say that there were items that were misplaced. However, I had not been there for a few days, so who's to say that Scott hadn't moved some also? But under the circumstances, yes. I had noticed certain things that normally weren't moved around had kind of been moved around and misplaced.
All right. Now, were you offered to get some of the items that were taken back?
No.
Did any of the items that were taken by Mr. Moreland and the individuals that were with him get returned to you?
No.
Objection, Your Honor. That's misconstruing what was stated before. There's been no evidence that he took anything.
Sustained. It's asking for speculation as well.
What are specific items that ended up being missing from the home?
A lot of personal things. He was a surgical tech, so a couple of his head covers were missing. Personal clothing, mugs, things of that nature.
Was there any financial documents or items missing?
Not that I'm aware, but they were laid out on the desk of the beneficiary, like if somebody had taken pictures of, what they were going to get upon being a beneficiary.
Was there any items missing out of his wallet?
There was a credit card that had been missing. I have yet to come across it. I don't know if maybe he had, maybe gone through and cut it up. That's not something I would think he would do without letting me know. We were pretty good with that. But I never got a bill or anything in reference to that credit card either. So.
Okay. And Your Honor, I will pass this witness to the defense.
Mr. Reynolds, cross-examination.
Thank you, Judge. Just briefly. Thank you for your time today, Miss City. Did you see Brad Moreland in your house?
No.
Okay, I have nothing further.
Redirect based on that one question, Ms. Gillette?
No, Your Honor. We'll be calling Megan Dickinson next.
The witness indicated as Megan. Please raise your right hand. You solemnly swear the testimony you're about to give shall be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth. So help you God?
Yes.
Thank you. Please proceed, Ms. Gillette.
Could you please state your name for the record?
Megan Dickinson.
And Megan, could you please spell your first and last name for the court reporter in case this is transcribed?
Yes, it's Megan, Megan, Dickinson, Dickinson.
And how do you know Ms. City and Mr. News?
Sandy was an employee of mine through a corporation called Birdsong Incorporated. She was a waitress for our company.
And did you go by the house on July 17th of 2023?
Can we specify what house, please?
Did you go by Ms. City and Mr. News's house on July 17th of 2023?
Yes, ma'am.
And when you went to the house, were there individuals in the house?
Yes.
Who all was in the house that day?
To my knowledge, it was Scott Noose's daughter, her partner or spouse, I'm not sure which, Scott's son, and then who I believe is Scott's ex-wife. And I don't know her name.
And is the daughter's partner with us today on the screen?
Yes, to the best of my knowledge, Mr. Moreland.
And were they removing items from the house that day?
No, not that it was apparent to me.
Do you know if any items were removed that day?
I do not. The only item removed, Sandy had asked me to get her and Scott's personal laptop, which I asked her son to provide, and he was more than willing to do so.
Okay. Did
To
he have?
which then I provided to Sandy.
Okay. Was it still in the house or was it removed from the house?
He handed it to me from the front door.
And
That was
Did-
Scott's son who did that.
now, were you able to tell how they got into the house?
No, I wasn't.
Were there any doors open when you arrived?
I knocked on the front door when I arrived, and Scott's daughter and son were present inside the house. I believe Scott's ex-wife was sitting outside, and perhaps Mr. Moreland was outside as well.
Do you know if Miss City, if they, did you ask them to leave or get out of the house while you were there?
No, I certainly did not.
And were they informed they didn't have permission to be in the house by you?
No.
Okay. And did you remain there to watch as to whether or not they took anything else out of the house?
I did not. I retrieved the laptop that Sandy had asked me to get. Then I went back to the restaurant where I was employed, ordered food, and then took food back to the family probably an hour and a half later, and left that, and then left the residence.
All right. And were you aware that Sandy was on her way to the house?
Yes. Yep. Sandy and I had visited on the phone.
Did you try to use the computer at all or enter a password into the computer?
Absolutely not.
And was there anything else you noticed or had conversations with anyone while you were there?
I had conversations with Scott's ex-wife, and I had limited interaction with Scott's son, really just extending my sympathy for the loss of Scott. It had been a very unexpected and sudden death, and all the family members that were present were obviously grieved and very emotional. So my sole purpose really was to retrieve the laptop, which Sandy had asked me to get, and then just to simply offer my sympathy for the loss of their dad.
Okay. And Judge, I will pass this witness to the defense.
Mr. Reynolds?
Thank you, Judge. Hello, Ms. Dickinson. Thank you for your time today.
Yeah, good morning. Thank you.
Good morning. So I just want to go back over some of your testimony to make sure I understood it, if that's okay.
Sure, of course.
So you stated initially in your first response, to your knowledge, you listed some people that were in the house. What does to your knowledge mean? You don't really know who they were?
That's correct. That was the first day that I had ever met anyone that was at that residence.
Okay, thank you. And then you said you didn't see people removing items from the house when you were there, correct?
That is correct.
Okay, and you requested a laptop which was provided to you?
By Scott's son.
Scott's son, okay. And when you saw my client, who is Mr. Moreland here, he was outside.
Yeah, Mr. Moreland, I can't remember. He was either inside and then he came outside, or he was outside when I arrived. And I maybe shook Mr. Moreland's hand, but that was the extent of the interaction that I had with him.
Okay. And then for the rest of your interaction during this incident or situation, whatever we want to call it, is you then brought food back to the grieving family.
Correct.
Okay. And it was clear that everyone there was grieving the loss of Mr. Noose. Is that correct?
100%.
Okay. Thank you for your time. Nothing further.
Yep. Thank you.
Okay, may this witness be excused, Ms. Gillette, if she wishes?
Yes, Judge.
All right. Yeah,
Judge, we'll call Mr. May, please.
very well. Mr. May, please raise your right hand.
And did you go by the house, Mr. News and Miss City on July 13th, 2023?
Yes.
All right. And when you went by, what did you see?
We saw 2 vehicles parked in the driveway, and we saw 4 people standing outside around the vehicles.
Okay. Did you stay and watch what they were doing?
We drove around the block once and then came back around. And when we came back around a third time, they had gotten into their vehicles and were leaving.
Okay. Did you see them carry anything out of the house?
I did not witness that.
And were you aware that they hadn't had permission to be in the house?
Yes, because Sandy called me on the phone, told me what was going on, and that's what prompted me to go over there.
Okay. And did you have any conversations with anyone regarding them being in the house?
You mean that day?
Yes, that day.
I just with Sandy, and my friend Paul Dean was with me.
Okay. Later on, did you have conversations with anyone that had been in the house?
No.
And besides seeing them at the house, did you see them go back in the house, or did they go in the house when you drove by any of the 3 times?
They were standing outside, and like I say, when we started driving by the 3rd time, that's when they were already in their cars pulling out, and we started following them down Standpipe.
Okay. And did you follow them until they were stopped?
We followed them to the bottom of Standpipe. The one vehicle went east on 58, and the other vehicle went on out of town and hit up on 99. And we followed them up to the highway 99, and then by then we had already been in contact with the Greenwood County Sheriff about what was going on.
I will pass this witness to the defense, Your Honor.
Mr. Reynolds?
No questions. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. May, you are excused at this time unless Ms. Gillette has any reason for you to stay further, but you may stay or go as you wish.
Okay, I'm just gonna go back to work if that's okay.
Ms. Gillette, any reason for him to stay?
No, Your Honor.
All right, thank you, Mr. May. Ms. Gillette, you may call your next witness.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Your Honor, we are going to call the party's neighbor. His name is wrong in the report. He's actually Mr. Harris. So we are calling Mr. Harris.
And when you say the party's neighbors, he's a neighbor to whom?
To the alleged victim, Your Honor.
The city?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
What was his name, Mr. Harris?
Harris.
Okay, please raise your right hand, sir.
And Mr. Harris, how do you know Sandy City and Mr. News?
I live the first house north of them, right there on 3rd Street, same side of the road. So
Right.
Just next door neighbors.
All right. On the date of July 13th, when Mr. News was found passed away, Did you see individuals come and enter the house?
Exact dates I can't quote you, but yes, it was the time that he had passed the night before. I got home from work and the wife had told me she thought something was different over there, that she hadn't seen Sandy and Scott or their dog Sage. And there were people there that we didn't recognize. And yes, they were coming and going through the front door.
All right. Do you recognize the defendant on the screen with us?
Let me get to another screen here. I don't really recognize anybody on the screen except Sandy. I wasn't close enough to give you a recognition of anybody, actually.
Okay. Were all four of the individuals that were present in and out of the house?
I believe they were, yes. I mean, they gathered on the front step and visit, and then some would go in, some would come out. But I think at one time or another, most everybody went in and out, yes.
Okay. Did you see them take items out of the house?
There were things being carried, but I could not tell you what.
Okay. Were they in bags or just individual things?
Possibly bags, boxes, nothing super large or anything. No furniture, TVs, nothing like that. It was all smaller items that would fit into, car. And I think there might have been like a little crossover there, but a white car is one I remember right off.
All right. Did you approach any of them or confront any of them?
No, I didn't. I went out to water my garden, and a girl came over that introduced herself as being Scott's daughter, and I believe her mother. Mother kind of stayed in the middle of the street explaining to me that Scott had passed the night before, and I asked her how Sandy. Well, she wasn't home. I said, what about Sage, which would be the dog? And they weren't sure. I said, is she loose? She says, no, but somebody has her that has a couple of dogs and a guy's name. I said, the only one locally, I told her who that was. We walked over there. No, they didn't know anything about a dog. And I said, you give me a first name. So they would call Sandy and try to get more info. I said, give me a first name. I can most likely narrow it down from there in our small town. And they said they would. I went back to my garden and they never came back over to follow up with a name of who might have Sage or anything like that.
And as you watched them carry things out of the house, was it like one house or two loads? How much stuff were they taking in and out of the house? Taken out of the house?
I couldn't give you an exact count of how many trips, but it was more than 2 trips I saw go back and forth, I believe, yes.
Okay. Were they taking anything in the house or just out?
I don't remember anything going in off my knowledge, no.
All right. Did you see Ms. Dickinson stop by and talk to the family?
Miss Dickinson, who is this?
Did you see a friend of the family stop by to talk to them at all ever?
To the individuals that were going in and out that day?
Yes.
There was a vehicle pulled up, and I believe they dropped off maybe some food or something from like maybe the restaurant downtown. I don't know who it was. There was a vehicle pull up out front and got out and visited, and I thought was dropping off some food maybe like you would do on a situation like this.
All right. Did you recognize anyone that was ever over there during that time frame? Had you ever seen any of them before?
Not of these 4 individuals, no. Not that I can recall ever seeing them before, no. Like I said, I wasn't super close to them, but nobody that I recognized.
Judge, I will pass this witness to the defense.
Mr. Reynolds?
Good. I thank Mr. Harris for his time, but I have no questions.
Thank you. Mr. Harris, you are excused. You may stay or go unless Ms. Gillette has any purpose for you to remain. Ms. Gillette, your next witness, please.
Judge, I will call Deputy Andrews.
Deputy, please raise your right hand. Do you solemnly swear the testimony you're about to give shall be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help you God?
I do, yes.
Thank you. Please proceed.
Could you please state your name for the record?
Deputy Jeremiah Andrews.
And Deputy, now I know you're one of our newest deputies. How long have you been a deputy with the Greenwood County Sheriff's Office?
For 2 years now.
All right. And were you dispatched on July 13th for an investigation in Madison, Kansas?
I was, yes.
And where did you go in Madison?
Let's see, it's going to be 601 South 3rd.
All right. When you arrived, what did you notice right away?
I noticed 3 individuals out in the front yard.
Okay. And what were the 3 individuals doing?
They were talking to each other.
Right. And when you approached, what happened?
Paul Dean informed me that he believed the GMC Terrain was taken from the house.
Okay. And what else was Mr. Dean one of the 3 individuals that was at the residence by that time?
That's correct.
And now, did you interview the neighbors?
Yes. In my report, I put Randy Herod, but it's actually Randall Harris.
And did you ever have contact with the suspects in this matter?
I did not know.
And did you ever arrest any of them?
I did not.
All right. Now, was an dispatch made to have the vehicle stopped that was that left the scene?
Yes.
Was that vehicle actually stopped by another county?
It was, yes.
And what county stopped that vehicle?
Lyon County.
And were they able to identify the driver of the vehicle?
They were, yes.
And who was?
Objection, Judge. This is calling for a hearsay response.
Thanks.
Were you able to catch the radio traffic on that traffic stop?
I was not, no.
Okay. Now, did you end up finding out who the boyfriend of Samantha News was that was at the property?
Bradley Morleen, yes.
And did he end up being the driver of the vehicle that was stopped?
Objection, Judge. This is still gaining information from hearsay sources.
Sustained. Maybe there's another way he knows that.
Was there any other way that you knew that Mr. Moreland had been the driver?
Any firsthand knowledge?
No.
And were you ever able to speak with Samantha News?
I was not, no.
Okay. Now, when you were you able to receive photos of items that had been removed from the vehicle, or that was in the vehicle that had left?
One that was stopped?
Yes.
Lyon County? Yes, I was.
And were any of the items in the vehicle that was stopped in Lyon County items that had been taken from the home?
Yes.
And were those items recovered and brought back to the residence?
They were not. They were photographed.
And to your knowledge, were any of the items that were removed ever returned to the victim, Ms. City?
Not to my knowledge, no.
And what was the name of the deputy that stopped the vehicle in Lyon County?
Let's see. Was Deputy Doug Stump.
Who else helped you conduct this investigation?
Deputy Jared Elkenberger.
And did Sergeant Cordell help you?
Yes, he did.
And not to prove the truth of the matter, but how did you find out Mr. Moreland was involved in being one of the poor people at the house?
Through interviewing Sandra Sitt.
I'm going to have to object to that response, Judge. Just because the prosecutor says it's not to prove the truth of the matter, I don't see any other purpose to elicit that response.
Well, but she has Sandra City present that she could recall. So maybe we need to just kind of clear up, maybe revisit that question with a little bit different wording, Miss Gillette.
And who told you Mr. Moreland was involved in this break-in?
Sandra Sitt.
Your Honor, I will pass this witness to the defense.
Mr. Reynolds.
Thank you, Judge. Deputy Andrews, good morning. Thank you for your time.
Morning.
So you never saw Bradley Moreland at the residence in Madison?
I did not know.
You did not pull over the vehicle?
I did not.
You did not take photographs of alleged items?
No, I did not.
Okay, nothing further. Thank you for your time, sir.
Thank you.
Thank you, Deputy. You can stay or go, depending on whether Ms. Gillette thinks she'll need to recall your Ms. Gillette witness, or do you want to let this witness go or keep him?
Judge, he can go.
All right, so again, I'll leave it up to you then, Deputy Andrews. Ms. Gillette?
Okay. Thank you, Judge.
You're welcome. Your next witness, if any, Ms. Gillette?
Missy, is there any other people in the waiting room?
Yeah, I have Helkenberg in there.
All right, we'll call Under Sheriff Helkenberg.
Yes, ma'am.
Thank you. Ms. Gillette, you may proceed.
Could you please state your name for the record?
William Jarrett Helkenberg.
And how are you employed?
I am currently the undersheriff of the Woodson County Sheriff's Office in the state of Kansas.
Congratulations on your new appointment, Undersheriff.
Thank you.
Previously, were you employed by the Greenwood County Sheriff's Office?
Yes, I was.
And when you were employed, did you respond to Sandra City's home in Madison, Kansas regarding a break-in?
I don't recall that. I have no subpoena, no case. I have nothing. Just a text message saying, hey, we need you on this Zoom meeting. I don't know why I'm here.
All right. So you don't remember getting screenshots and photos from Sandra City regarding individuals taking things from her home?
Not off the top of my head. I'm sorry.
Okay.
If I had a report to reflect on, it might jog my memory, but I'm sorry. At this moment, I'm a complete blank.
Okay. Your Honor, we'll excuse Under Sheriff Helkenberg.
Very well. Thank you, Undersheriff, for being here. Your excuse.
Yeah, no problem. Sorry about that.
All right. We'll recall Sandra City, Your Honor.
Okay, thank you. And Undersheriff, you're free to go or stay as you wish.
Okay.
It looks like you still have the one camera on. Okay. You're still under oath, Miss City. Please proceed.
And Miss City, who was Ms. Samantha News's boyfriend or significant other at the time that your home was broken into?
Who is he? Is that what you're asking? Brad is Samantha News's boyfriend.
Okay. And was he her boyfriend at the time that your house was broken into?
Yes.
Okay. And if someone had identified the person that was in the house with Samantha at the time as her boyfriend, would that have been Mr. Moreland?
Correct, yes.
And to your knowledge, did she have any other boyfriend besides Mr. Moreland?
None that I'm aware of. He's the only one.
Okay. I will pass this witness to the defense.
Any cross-examination, Mr. Reynolds?
One moment, please. No, thank you, Miss City.
You're welcome.
Any other evidence, Ms. Gillette?
No, Your Honor.
State res? Mr.
State.
Reynolds? Go ahead, Ms. Gillette.
Yes, state will rest.
Mr. Reynolds, any evidence?
No evidence, just we request argument, Judge.
Very well. Ms. Gillette, any argument?
Your Honor, in this matter, Ms. City did not give permission for these individuals to be in her home. They entered her home. The neighbor, Mr. Harris, saw 4 individuals removing items from the home and placing them in vehicles. Mr. May drove by and watched these same individuals leave. They followed them out of town. When Ms. Dickinson went by, it was Scott's daughter, her partner, boyfriend, whatever he was to her at the time. The ex-wife of Mr. News and son were the people who identified themselves as being present. The laptop was given to her. She saw Mr. Moreland on the porch. Mr. Harris saw him going in and out of the house with the others. Items were removed. They matched items. Photos were taken by another deputy that matched the exact same items that were missing from the house, were in the vehicle when it was stopped. No permission was given for them to enter the property and steal anything. No permission was given for them to be in the house, period. They entered that house without permission and removed items without permission of Miss City. Therefore, we would ask you to bind the defendant over on burglary and theft here at preliminary hearing and set the case for trial.
The theft is charged in the amended complaint information as a misdemeanor, isn't it, Ms. Gillette?
It is.
Okay.
Burglary by law is entering into a dwelling with the intent to commit a theft, felony, or sexual crime therein, and it could be any theft.
So your reference to theft was not to bind over on theft, but merely to offer as the motive for entering the residence?
That is correct, Your Honor, because an element of the crime of burglary is theft, a felony, or a sexually motivated crime therein.
Okay.
They've actually added some in the new statute since the law changeover.
Okay. But the way you have count 1 charged, it's entered the dwelling with the intent to commit a theft. And you're not asking that he be bound over on a misdemeanor, just a burglary, right?
Correct, Your Honor, and the theft would go with the felony.
Mr. Reynolds.
Thank you, Judge. Well, Ms. Gillette stated a lot of things that weren't in evidence, so let's go back through what was in evidence. First of all, she stated that Mr. Harris saw my client go into the house. That's not true. Mr. Harris actually stated he wasn't close enough to see anybody who they actually were. So he saw some people there going in and out of the house, but he did not positively identify my client or anyone that was actually there. Now, Ms. Gillette also asked Ms. City whenever she recalled her and says, so if someone saw the boyfriend of Scott News's daughter in the house, who would that boyfriend have been? And they said the boyfriend was Brad Moreland, my client. However, no one said they saw the boyfriend in the house. Mrs. Dickinson said she saw him outside. And she came back again, never said anything about my client, Brad Moreland, being in the house. Additionally, the state has referred to items being found in Mr. Moreland's car and them matching the items that were taken. However, we never got a list of what was taken. We never had a pulled over vehicle. We never had items actually found. So I have no idea what she's talking about. And I would assume that means the court has no idea what she's talking about either. Now, Daryl May saw people standing outside when they were leaving. No evidence of who or that anyone even was in the residence. And Megan Dickinson, who was kind enough to bring food over to people that were grieving, said to her knowledge, and she confirmed that what that meant was she didn't know who they were at the time. I mean, she learned this stuff afterward. And she still didn't confirm that she saw anybody in the house, or I'm sorry, my client in the house. The city, I'm so sorry for her loss, but she did not see anybody in the house. She was not in town. There's no one here to testify that my client was in the house. Zero evidence of that, Your Honor. Also, the state not only has to show evidence of that, but they have to show evidence to the second prong of the statute to which Mrs. Gillette was referring, with the intent to commit a theft, felony, or sexually motivated crime therein. There's zero evidence about his intent if someone were in the house. Zero evidence on either parts of this statute. There is no probable cause to bind my client over on the felony charge, and we would ask that that count be dismissed, Judge.
The standard, of course, as counsel knows, is probable cause. It's a much lower standard than proof beyond a reasonable doubt at trial. But at preliminary hearing, the court does have to find that this crime of burglary occurred. Now, this charging document says July 17th of 2023, and most of the witnesses were directed to July 13th. I heard July 20th in some of the testimony, but it's charged that on or about the 17th. So that puts it within the statute of limitations clearly. Greenwood County, Madison's clearly in Greenwood County. So jurisdiction is established, but is there evidence that the crime of burglary occurred and probable cause that Mr. Moreland committed the burglary, that he would have to have, there would have to be probable cause that he unlawfully, knowingly, feloniously entered into a dwelling with the intent to commit a theft. Now, count 2 alleges the theft would have been a credit card, medicine, cologne, and a 9mm Luger handgun that belonged to Scott News. Well, I don't remember hearing anything about a Luger handgun, cologne, medicine. Heard something about a credit card that Miss City still couldn't find, but she said for all she knows, Mr. News may have cut it up. She doesn't think so, but it's possible. So she's just not sure where it is. No one's tried to misuse the credit card. So if count 2, the theft of those 4 things give rise to that prong in the statute that Mr. Moreland went in to steal those things, it's just not there. Now, if I tried to look at it with a broader brush and that maybe there was something else he went in to steal, there was some broad speculation maybe that some things were going out of the house. The neighbor testified that there were 4 people that went in the house and they were taking things out. He didn't remember seeing them take anything in, although he saw Miss Dickinson arrive with what he didn't know who she was, but it looked like maybe it was someone bringing food. Probable cause isn't, like I said, nearly a high enough standard, but I'm not sure who these people were. Someone said, I think it was maybe Miss Dickinson said that she was introduced to these people. She was introduced to them as the deceased daughter. There was, and some information about her being her boyfriend, which would be Mr. Moreland, which would indicate that Mr. Moreland was in the house. But as far as him knowing that he was in the house wrongly or feloniously or to commit a theft, I suspect if we'd approached the evidence another way, that could have clearly been resolved. suspect that the county attorney probably has evidence, but that's just a suspicion. It's not probable cause. Based on what I've heard today, I feel like I have to make too much of a stretch to find probable cause. But, and I'm not going to find it, but Mr. Moreland, that doesn't mean, as your attorney may have already told you, that doesn't mean it can't be refiled and they can't approach this from a different direction and present their evidence differently than what they did today. But I'm just not finding it today. But again, I don't mean any disrespect to Miss City. She certainly has the court's sympathy for the loss of her spouse. And again, I'm not finding probable cause today on count 1 burglary because Ms. Gillette made it clear count 2 was the theft that gave rise to count 1, and I'm just not finding that in the evidence. So at this time, the court is going to dismiss the case without prejudice so it can be refiled should the county attorney wish to do so. And she could do so as soon as today, Mr. Moreland, if she wants to. So with that being said, is there anything further at this time from either party?
Yes, Judge. You said the case was being dismissed. Is that still, but is the misdemeanor started?
Oh, excuse me. Yes, you're right. I cannot and do not dismiss count 2 theft. You're absolutely right. And because it is not addressed in the prelim, other than for the purposes previously discussed, how does counsel want to address that theft? Or Ms. Gillette, do you want to dismiss the theft? So if you want to refile the burglary, how do you want to proceed on that theft issue, Ms. Gillette?
Judge, we'll submit an order regarding count 2 and refile with a few amendments.
All right, so are you orally moving to dismiss it at this time without prejudice so it can be refiled as well?
We will, Judge.
All right, so based on the state's motion, then Mr. Reynolds, I will dismiss count 2 as well. So the case is dismissed at this time without prejudice. All right, thank you all.
Thank you for the court's time.
Are you kidding me?
Oh my God.
You have got to be kidding me. What is going on today? This is a joke. This is a joke. Today is an absolute joke. We need an interpreter.
I need an interpreter when I cannot express myself sometimes.
Oh my God, sir, put that cigarette out. I don't give a crap that you are outside of this. What is wrong with everybody today? You know what, Miss Reed, we're going to start bringing people in first. He's going to learn how to act in a courtroom.
Can you hear it? Can you hear it? Ma'am? Ma'am? Can you hear it?
No.
Okay.
I have no faith in that. And trust me, out of the day, I'm sitting up here, I'm the one that needs you.